Hi, I'm Shane. Thanks for hanging out today. I have for review and sound check a Yamaha Stage Custom Birch drum set, and this is the Jazz or Bop configuration. It is an 18-inch bass drum. I believe it's 15 inches deep, 12 by 8 tom, and a 14 by 12 floor tom. It doesn't come with the kit, but I also have the matching snare drum, which is 5.5 by 14. The snare drum does come with the two bigger versions of this kit, with the 20-inch kick and the 22-inch kick. This is actually the third Stage Custom Birch kit I have bought, so that probably tells you something right there. I needed a practice kit, and I looked at the Ludwig offering, the Pearl, the Sonar. Everyone's got a small kit right around $400. But I figured since I already have the bigger version of this, I'm going to go ahead and spend another $100. And for $500, I get this, and then I can mix and match the pieces with my bigger kit. One thing that I am not fond of in the Jazz configuration is I wish the rack tom was a 10. I'd much rather have 10-14. It seems like with 12-14, you either have to tune the 12 too high or the 14 too low to get a nice spread between them. But it comes with the 12. And if I play this as a Jazz kit, I will probably just grab the 10 from my rock setup and use that. The big question with a kit this size is always the bass drum. It's an 18. It's going to work for jazz and blues and probably folk, but can you get a rock sound out of it, or at least use it in a small setting? So I'm going to play this kit at 3 different tunings. I'm going to start off at just the standard medium, then I'm going to go high, and then the low. I'm going to see if I can get a rock sound out of it. Right now, the bass drum is set up with nothing inside of it. When I try to do the rock configuration, I'll put some dampening there and put a ported head on the front. Heads on it are coated ambassadors on the toms on the top, and then the stock heads, the Remo UTs on the bottom. On the kick drum, I have a Remo CS control sound, and the stock front, also coated ambassador on the snare. The medium tuning is 76 on the drum dial on the top and bottoms of everything, the toms and the bass drum. And I will flash up the tunings for the high and the low when we get there. So I'm going to go ahead and let you hear the toms through the vocal mic, which is a Shure SM58. The snare has a 57 on it. There are 2 microphones on the bass drum. I have a Shure Beta 52 and a cheap condenser, which is an MXL V67. So I'll switch between those two, and you can hear how they sound individually and blended together. Also on the bass drum, I'm going to use a regular Yamaha hard felt beater, and then I'm going to use the Vader Vintage Bomber. The thing with an 18-inch bass drum like this, if you're used to burying the beater, you can't really do that at medium or high tunings. When you get low, you'll be able to do it, but when it's medium and high, it kind of bounces back off. So it's kind of hard to use a felt beater if you're used to burying it, which I am. So I'm going to try some burying, and I'm going to try to feather it and let it come back, and we'll see how that sounds with both of these beaters. So let's get to it. I've got the toms at 70 on the drum dial, and the bass drum, it's not bottomed out, but it's very low. I've also got a ported head on the front and a blanket inside that's touching the front and back heads. It's to the point where it feels comfortable if I bury the beater, but to be honest, I don't know how that's going to sound through the microphones. I haven't, checked this beforehand, so you be the judge. I'm going to go ahead and see if this will hold its own, with some rock kind of grooves. The 14 sounds really, really good, tuned low. The 12 is, a little flappy. I would probably take that up a little bit, if I was actually, gigging like this, but I'm going to leave it there, for demonstration purposes. But the 14 can definitely hold its own as a lone floor tom in this setting. Another thing I need to mention about the snare is it's 10 lug, so you have some options there. If you have the the Bebop kit and you want to get another snare, I would probably look at the steel version if you want to have a matching snare. I had that for a while, sounded great. I believe the steel one was actually an 8 lug for some reason. The Birch one sounds okay, but it's it's a wood snare. I think that maybe a rock kind of setting you would want a metal one. So here is some more grooves. We'll see how it holds up. So there you have the Stage Custom Birch in the Bop or Jazz configuration. Again, that's an 18-inch bass drum. I think it's 15 inches deep. It could be 16. I'll annotate that. The rack tom is a 12 by 8, and the floor tom is a 14 by 13. And the snare drum, which doesn't come with it, again, is 5.5 by 14. I think this is a really versatile kit. I wouldn't buy it if I only played rock, but if you play jazz, blues, and occasionally some rock, it'll definitely work out. The bad thing about Yamaha is the limited color selection, but they more than make up for it with their sound. I've had another kit in this configuration, and it was the Gretsch Catalina Jazz Mahogany, and the kick drum sounded okay. The toms sounded amazing, and the snare drum was awful. I just didn't like the mahogany snare, so I never used it. And that's a $650 kit. The finishes are a little better, but this one is only $500. You don't get a snare, but you could also easily add a $150 metal snare, and you have a really great sounding kit. I think that in this price range, $500, nothing can beat this. There's a lot of companies putting like poplar, and they've got, it says mahogany, but it might be some really chintzy mahogany, quick growth, and it's not going to sound very good. Yamaha never fails to deliver in the sound department. This is primarily going to be my rehearsal kit. But I'm going to bring the 18-inch bass drum back and forth when I want to do some jazz covers because, like I mentioned, I happen to have also a rock version of this. That's a 22, 10, 12, 14, 16, and the snare drum. It's actually the same snare drum. I've got a review of that. I will link to that if you want to check it out, and I go through the snare drum a little more extensively in that review. That'll be linked in the description below. Once again, I'm Shane. Thanks for hanging out. Make sure you subscribe, check out these social media sites, and all my covers and lessons and everything else that I have on the channel, and take care.